You know what fascinates me more than anything else? The precise moment when someone's life changes forever. That split second when they make a decision that transforms everything. I've spent decades watching these moments, studying them, understanding them. The darkest moment of your life, that moment when you felt like everything was falling apart, remember how that felt? Hold on to that feeling for just a moment, because I'm going to show you something remarkable about it. You see, I've discovered something extraordinary about human potential. And it's this: in the moment when all hope seems lost isn't the end of your story. It's actually the beginning of your transformation. But most people miss this completely. They're so busy looking at what they've lost, they can't see what they're about to gain. Let me share something personal with you. Back in 1955, I was broke and bewildered. I had exactly $57 in my pocket, a young family to feed, and no idea how I was going to make it through the next week, let alone the next year. But that moment, that desperate, terrifying moment, became the foundation of everything I built afterward. And today, I want to show you exactly how to transform your moments of despair into launching pads for success. Because here's what's fascinating. Success leaves clues. And after studying success for over 5 decades, I've discovered that the pathway from hopelessness to achievement follows a precise pattern. Let me share with you the 7 fundamental principles that can transform your life when all hope seems lost. These aren't just theories. They're battle-tested strategies that have worked for thousands of people I've mentored over the years. Principle number 1, the power of personal responsibility. You see, most people spend their lives waiting for rescue. They're waiting for someone to solve their problems, fix their situations, change their circumstances. But here's what's fascinating. Rescue never comes from the outside. It always comes from within. Let me tell you about George. In 1978, George lost everything, his business, his savings, his marriage, everything. He called me one day, desperate for advice. I asked him a simple question: George, responsible for your life. He started listing all the people who had wronged him, all the circumstances that had conspired against him. I stopped him and said, George, until you take 100 responsibility for your life, nothing will change. You know what happened? 6 months later, George had started a new business. 2 years later, he was more successful than ever before. What changed? Not his circumstances, his mindset. He stopped being a victim and became the author of his own life story. This is crucial, so let me say it again. The moment you accept total responsibility for everything in your life is the moment your life begins to change. Until then, you're just rehearsing old excuses. Principle number 2, mastering your emotions. When the world feels like it's crumbling, when everything you counted on seems to vanish, the natural instinct is to feel overwhelmed. The frustration, the anger, the sadness, it's all there. It's tempting to think that your emotions are in charge. But the truth is, the person who learns to master their emotions is the one who eventually masters their life. Let me tell you about a young man named Jack who came to one of my seminars back in 1985. Jack had just been let go from his job. He was angry, bitter, and ready to blame everyone around him. His boss, the economy, even his friends. He asked me, Jim, how do I change my life? I told him, Jack, you've got to change your emotions first. Learn to control the anger and instead channel it into something productive. Jack didn't like that answer. You see, folks, it's easier to stay angry than to change. But something clicked in Jack after that conversation. He learned how to use his emotions rather than let them use him. He started focusing on what he could do rather than what had been done to him. A few years later, Jack became a successful entrepreneur, employing dozens of people. What changed? Not the economy, not the circumstances, but his ability to take charge of how he felt. He decided to respond rather than react. When all hope feels lost, remind yourself that emotions are just the beginning, not the end. Feel them, understand them, but don't let them decide your future. Remember, you are in charge. Mastering your emotions isn't about ignoring what you feel. It's about understanding those emotions and deciding what you want to do with them. You have a choice every moment. Will you let your emotions define you, or will you be the one to define them? Each day brings a new opportunity to exercise this mastery, and the more you do it, the stronger you become. You start to realize that emotions are fleeting, but your choices are lasting. When all seems chaotic, the power to choose how to feel and how to act is always within your grasp. Emotions can be your ally or your enemy. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean avoiding them or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it means using them as a guide rather than letting them steer the ship. Fear, anger, sadness, they all have their place. They can tell you when something needs to change, when you need to take a different path, or when you're passionate about something. But the key is to process them, learn from them, and then act in a way that serves you and your goals. It's a practice, a skill that you refine every single day, and it becomes the foundation of a resilient, unstoppable life. Principle number 3, the power of small actions. When hope is gone, the big picture can seem impossible. The mountain seems too high, the journey too far. But here's the truth, my friends. Big change starts with small steps. Success is not built in leaps and bounds. It's built one brick at a time. Let me take you back to my early days. After that low point in 1955, I made a decision. I decided I would do whatever it took to change. But what did that actually mean? It meant that every single day I did something, just one thing, to make my life a little better. One phone call, one meeting, one idea written down, and over time, those small actions added up. They became something significant, something real. I remember working with a woman named Sandra. She was overwhelmed by debt, struggling just to make ends meet. She came to me and said, "Jim, I can't see a way out." I told her, "Sandra, don't focus on getting out of debt. Focus on doing one thing every day that moves you in the right direction." She started by saving just $1 a day. Then it was $5. She started selling things she didn't need. A few years later, Sandra wasn't just debt-free. She was financially independent. She had learned the secret: when the whole picture looks impossible, focus on the next small step. Remember, my friends, when everything looks impossible, just do something. Take one small action, and then another. The key is momentum. Once you start moving, it's hard to stop. Small actions are like seeds planted in the ground. You might not see the results today, or even tomorrow, but if you keep at it, those seeds will grow into something wonderful. Every step you take builds your confidence, your belief, and your energy. Each small win creates a little bit of hope, and that hope grows until it becomes something unshakable. Whether it's reading a page of a book, writing down a plan, or taking a short walk, each action matters. Over time, those small actions compound and become massive progress. So, even when everything seems lost, remind yourself, small actions have an incredible way of leading to breakthroughs. It's like pushing a boulder up a hill. In the beginning, it feels impossible. Every inch is a struggle, but as you keep pushing, you start to gain momentum. The boulder gets lighter, the movement easier, and before you know it, you're over the top and racing downhill. That's how progress works. You start with the small, seemingly insignificant actions, and over time, they build momentum that becomes unstoppable. Remember, greatness is not about sudden leaps. It's about consistent daily progress. Every step you take is a victory, no matter how small it may seem. Principle number 4, the influence of associations. The people you surround yourself with matter. In times of hopelessness, we tend to gravitate towards others who will sympathize with our sorrow, people who will validate our complaints. But here's the thing, misery loves company, but company doesn't love success. In 1963, I met a man named Earl. Earl was smart, talented, and hardworking, but he was always struggling. I asked him about the people he spent his time with. He told me about his friends. They were all in similar positions, struggling, complaining, living paycheck to paycheck. I told Earl, if you want to change your life, change your associations, find people who have what you want, and spend time with them. Earl took that to heart. He started attending seminars, going to business networking events, meeting people who were successful, motivated, driven. And wouldn't you know it, things started to change. Earl's mindset changed, his actions changed, and eventually his results changed. Remember this, in your darkest times, the people around you can either pull you down or lift you up. Choose wisely. Find the ones who will inspire you, who will challenge you, who will remind you of what's possible. Surrounding yourself with positive. Motivated people isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about exposing yourself to the energy and the mindset of those who refuse to give up. It's about finding those people who will listen to your struggles, but then push you forward rather than let you stay stuck. When you align yourself with the right people, you gain perspective. Solutions where before there were only problems. Association is powerful because it shapes your thinking, your beliefs, and your actions. Choose people who will lift you higher, and soon you'll find yourself standing on the shoulders of giants. Associations are like the wind beneath your wings, or the weight around your ankles. Your associations have a subtle but profound impact on your thoughts and action. They influence how you see the world and yourself. When you're surrounded by people who believe in growth, who seek solutions, who take responsibility for their lives, you'll be inspired to do the same. It's important to realize that sometimes you have to let go of relationships that are keeping you stuck. It's not easy, but your future is worth it. Invest in those relationships that bring out the best in you. Find mentors, seek out peers who are on the same path, and be willing to be influenced by their success and resilience. The people in your life are a reflection of your future. Choose those who reflect the future you want. Principle number 5, the value of learning. One of the things that always fascinated me is how, when hope is lost, people tend to stop learning. They close their minds as if the future is no longer worth investing in. But my friends, that's precisely when learning becomes most crucial. I learned this lesson from my mentor, Mr. Shove. When I was at my lowest, Mr. Shove didn't give me money or a job. He gave me books. He told me if you want to change your life, you need new ideas. And new ideas come from learning. At the time, I didn't understand it. I thought, what good will a book do when I have bills to pay? But I read those books and slowly, my thinking began to change. I began to see opportunities where I had once seen obstacles. I began to believe in possibilities where I had once seen only limitations. In the darkest moments, when you invest in learning, even just 30 minutes a day, you're laying the foundation for a brighter future. You're preparing yourself for the opportunities that are to come. Remember, folks, when all hope is lost, it's the perfect time to learn something new. Learning changes perspective, and perspective changes everything. It doesn't have to be a formal education. It can be as simple as reading an inspiring biography, listening to an audio seminar, or practicing a new skill. The idea is to feed your mind with something that uplifts and energizes you. Each new concept, each fresh idea, becomes a tool in your toolbox for tackling challenges. When you learn, you grow, and growth is the antidote to hopelessness. When you become better, you start to believe in better possibilities. So when hope seems lost, invest in yourself. You are the most valuable asset you have. Learning opens doors that you never knew existed. It gives you the keys to unlock opportunities that once seemed out of reach. And in moments of despair, learning gives you something that no one else can take away. Knowledge, skills, and a renewed sense of purpose. It turns stagnation into progress. Think of learning as a spark that ignites new possibilities. The moment you decide to pick up a book, listen to a new idea, or explore a new skill, you're deciding to believe in a better future. You're deciding to invest in the person you can become. And when you continuously learn, you evolve, and that evolution makes you capable of facing any challenge, no matter how daunting. Principle number 6, the gift of gratitude. Now, you might be thinking, gratitude, how can I be grateful when everything is falling apart? But hear me out on this. Gratitude is not about ignoring your problems. It's about finding something, anything, that reminds you that there's still good in the world, that there is still hope. I remember in 1970, I worked with a man named Paul. Paul was struggling with his health, his finances, his relationships. It seemed like everything was falling apart at once. He told me, Jim, there's nothing left to be grateful for. I asked him, Paul, do you have your health? He said, no, I'm not well. I asked, do you have friends? He hesitated and said, not many. Finally, I asked, do you have today? He paused and his eyes welled up. Yes, he said, I have today. From that moment, Paul started every day with one act of gratitude. He wrote down one thing he was thankful for. No matter how small, over time, that simple practice shifted his entire outlook on life. His health began to improve. His finances followed, and eventually his relationships did too. Gratitude changes everything because it changes you. No matter how dark it gets, there is always something to be grateful for. And when you find that something, it begins to expand. Gratitude opens the door to possibility, even when hope seems lost. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, your perspective shifts. The burden becomes a little lighter. You start to see the silver linings. Gratitude is powerful because it invites more good things into your life. It transforms your mindset from scarcity to abundance. It's about acknowledging that, even amidst the chaos, there is beauty, there is love, and there is opportunity. When all else fails, gratitude remains. Start today. Write down 3 things you're grateful for, no matter how small they may seem. And watch how, over time, your world transforms. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already present. It moves your attention away from problems and towards possibilities. This shift is transformative. It takes you from a mindset of scarcity, where you feel like there's never enough, to a mindset of abundance, where you start to recognize the richness that already exists in your life. When you're grateful, your energy changes. You become more optimistic, more open to opportunities, and more willing to take positive actions. Gratitude becomes a source of strength, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is something to hold on to, something worth fighting for. Start your day with gratitude and see how it changes not just your outlook, but your entire life. Principle number 7, faith in the process. Life is a series of seasons. There's a season for sowing and a season for reaping. But there's also a season in between, a season where nothing seems to happen, where hope is hard to find. That's when most people give up. They forget that all progress takes time. I want to tell you about a farmer I knew back in the 60s. This man planted his crops year after year, but one season a drought came. The crops withered and it looked like all was lost. His neighbors gave up, abandoned their fields. But this farmer had something else. He had faith. He kept tending to his land, kept preparing for the next season, even when there was nothing to show for it. The rains eventually came, and because he hadn't given up, his fields were ready. He harvested more than anyone that year. Why? Because he trusted in the process. He knew that no matter how hopeless things seemed, the season of growth would return. When all hope is lost, that's when faith is tested. That's when you must trust that the actions you're taking today, no matter how small, no matter how futile they seem, will eventually lead to a better tomorrow. Keep planting, keep watering, keep believing. Because the harvest always comes to those who don't give up. Faith in the process means understanding that growth often happens beneath the surface. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. It's like a seed in the soil. It needs time nurturing and patience. Trust that the seeds you plant today will bear fruit in time. Even when there is no evidence of progress, faith keeps you going. It whispers, keep moving forward. It reminds you that every effort you make is adding up, that no labor is in vain. Faith is what allows you to hold on when logic tells you to let go. Trust in the unseen, and one day you'll see the results. Keep the faith, and you'll see the harvest. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's believing in the unseen, trusting that your efforts are not in vain. Every action you take, every small step, every sacrifice is a part of the process. The results may not be immediate, but that doesn't mean they aren't coming. Faith is what keeps you from giving up in the face of setbacks. It's the quiet assurance that though the road may be long and the night's dark, the dawn will come. The process may be slow, it may be uncertain, but it is moving forward step by step. Trust in it, stay the course, and eventually you'll arrive at the destination you've dreamed of. The harvest always comes to those who wait and work with patience and perseverance. When all hope is lost, remember that the story is not over. It's simply a chapter, not the entire book. You are the author and the pen is still in your hand. You have the power to write your own ending. The principles I've shared with you today, taking responsibility, mastering your emotions, taking small actions, choosing your associations, learning gratitude and faith. These are your tools. Use them. Hope is not something you find. It's something you create. And when you feel like all hope is lost, remember that it's precisely at that moment when your true power is ready to be discovered. This is your time. Don't wait for the perfect conditions or the perfect moment. The perfect time to act is now. Remember that your life can change in an instant, not because the world changes, but because you decide to change. Keep moving, keep striving, keep believing. You have within you everything you need to transform despair into triumph. So go ahead, write the next chapter and make it the best one yet. Go out there and make it count. Your future is waiting for you right now. The world may feel uncertain. Your circumstances might seem beyond your control. But you have a choice every day, every moment, to either succumb to the despair or to rise above it. Understand this, greatness is born in moments of adversity. The most inspiring stories ever told are not of those who had it easy, but of those who faced impossible odds and chose to rise anyway. Today you have that choice. You can be the hero of your story. You can be the one who defied the odds, who turned hopelessness into hope, and who inspired others along the way. Don't underestimate the power of one decision. The decision to get up, the decision to try again, the decision to keep going, even when everything in you is screaming to quit. You have the strength within you to make that decision, to take that small action, to choose gratitude, to surround yourself with people who lift you, to keep learning, and to have faith in the process. You are capable of greatness beyond what you can see right now. This moment, right here, right now, is the beginning of your transformation. And as you take the next step and then another, you will discover that the power to change your life has always been within you. It's time to step into your power. It's time to rise. Your future is waiting, and it's going to be extraordinary. Make it count. Your best chapter is yet to be written.